What's going on, y'all? It's your boy, Julian Lockhart, and welcome to the Inside Scoop podcast. I'm really excited to be here. My voice is a little shot. I just got done broadcasting like 3.5 hockey games, and it takes a toll on your voice, for sure. I say 3.5. I was originally supposed to do 4. Then the half one was a blowout so bad they literally called it off like 5 minutes into the second period. I'm grateful for it because I still get paid, and I don't have to call an atrocious game. And I got to save my voice a little bit for my podcast. Anyway, super stoked. Week 2 is through. So this is my Week 2 recap for college football. We're going to talk about my favorite matchups for the week, my questions and takeaways, and then we're going to go over the new Week 3 AP poll, my thoughts and reactions for that. It was a great week. I'm super excited. I'm taking away time for the NFL. I should be watching the NFL right now. The Vikings already played. They got a huge dub at the Giants. Super stoked about that. I didn't get to watch a single second of it because I had to work on broadcast all these hockey games. But, work comes first. That's just how it is. I'm sad I couldn't witness the Vikings win, but that is what it is. Anyway, okay. Let's get into the episode. So we're going to start out with some Minnesota college football, starting with Rhode Island taking on the Gophers. So Minnesota had a heartbreaking loss last week against North Carolina. They go and host FCS program Rhode Island, and it was a huge win. 48-0 was the score. Darius Taylor, their all-conference level running back, returns. They return to kind of like, a decent form. Max Brosmer looked a little bit more comfortable in that game, and the Gophers overall looked better than they did against North Carolina, which, to me, kind of giving them tough love is to be expected. I mean, you guys are going up against an FCS program, and you guys are a Power 4 Big Ten team. You guys should whoop their ass. And that's what they did. So I'm happy they did that. They lived up to expectations for Week 2. Now you go play a little bit of a tougher opponent in Nevada. Hopefully they can advance to 2-1 there. Overall thoughts about the Gophers. I mean, again, I think they'll be. I've said my ceiling is what? I think really now probably 7-5. I would say, but they definitely could go and win some Big Ten games. I wouldn't say Iowa and Wisconsin are as good as they normally are. They're pretty close. I would say like closer than like a Michigan or like a Penn State or of course like an Ohio State, Oregon too as well. I think Minnesota has a chance for sure against Iowa. They have a chance against Wisconsin. I don't think the Badgers are as good, maybe as people say they are. So we'll see. But overall for Minnesota, a good win against Rhode Island. Next we travel to across the river in St. Paul as the St. Thomas Tommies hosted University of Northern Iowa in their second game. It was a hard-fought battle. Their first game, St. Thomas, they lost to a Division II opponent, University of Sioux Falls. That is a rough loss. I think everyone kind of knows that. We have to move past that. St. Thomas, they drop a close game. They do lose 17-10. I mean, for the first time, ever, does St. Thomas start out 0-2? I mean, I feel like this is just weird to process. Obviously a much closer game against Northern Iowa as it was against Sioux Falls. It's interesting how that works, right? Like you lose by 3 touchdowns to a Division II team, and then you play one of the best teams in the FCS, and you're within a possession. It's crazy how that works. Offensively, I think is really up in the air for the St. Thomas Tommies. They seem like they really can't get much going. They definitely looked better yesterday, statistically, with gaining yards, but they just haven't really been able to get in the end zone, I think, as much as they would like. 2 total offensive touchdowns in 2 weeks is something they really need to improve, especially if they want to keep winning. I think for their conference, they haven't played a conference opponent yet, so this doesn't hurt too much in terms of their 0-2 start. However, for the season confidence, it's not great. They play Black Hills State, another Division II program, who they only beat by 10 last year. And, the hard truth is, I would want to say that should be a win for St. Thomas. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, honestly. The way they've been playing, they have been, I think, a little disappointing. But at the same time, I know, they played really hard against UNI. And UNI is a great team that beat them by 40 points a few years back. So from 40-7, points. That margin is pretty big. So definitely they improved in that category. But yeah, I definitely think my overall prediction of them being 10-2 literally means um, they would go and win their next 10 games. I just don't see that really happening right now. I think right now, if I had to change my projection, I'm going to give them a 8-4 record. That would be which I think at one point was, I'm pretty sure when I first went over their schedule, that was like my floor. I was not expecting them to start 0-2. So yeah, my overall prediction now is going to be 8-4 for the Tommies this year. Now let's go a little bit more nationwide. We talked about St. Thomas. We talked about the Gophers. The big game. Everyone was watching this. The big noon game, college game day, Texas at Michigan. Number 3 versus number 10. It was a great game if you're a Texas Longhorn fan. My overall thoughts for that. I mean, Quinn Ewers looked like a first-round pick in the NFL. He played really well. He was making great passes that like an NFL-level quarterback would make. Texas defensively did well. I think there's a big question in the air for the Michigan quarterback situation. I don't really know if Davis Warren is really the guy. I know there's thoughts about Alex Orji being kind of the go-to quarterback, and they seem like they only use him when they want to run the ball, and they don't even really like to use him all that much. And as great as Donovan Edwards is, as great as Colson Loveland is on offense, they can only do so much. Defensively, I think Texas really had their number. Like, even though, Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham played really well in the interior, they pretty much neutralized them and made them really not be able to do too much. So Texas with a huge win, one of the best wins of the season overall in college football. You go to number 10 Michigan and you beat them 31-12 as the final score. A huge win for the Longhorns. Bowling Green at Penn State. So we're going to go Big Ten. So I remember mentioning how I thought this was going to be a gimme for the Nittany Lions. And Penn State was on upset watch for almost the entire game. They won 34-27, but Bowling Green can do that. I remember a few years back when Minnesota, the Gophers, when they were pretty good, like you can rank them type of good. And they had a homecoming game, and they hosted Bowling Green. And I'm like, oh, they should easily win this. And I wasn't as big of a college football fan at this point, but I was starting to get into it. And they ended up losing at homecoming. And I remember they either were ranked, and then, of course, they kind of lost their credibility, and they weren't ranked after that. Or they were maybe going to get ranked if they won, and then they ended up losing. Bowling Green can do that to you. And I think it's so weird, right, how Penn State goes to West Virginia on the road in a tough atmosphere, and they beat them by 22. And then you're at home, crowds on your side. You play a more or a less difficult opponent, right? West Virginia, I think we can all agree, is a more difficult opponent than Bowling Green. And then you go and lose that game. Crazy how that works. Penn State gets away with the win. Arkansas at Oklahoma State, little SEC Big 12 battle. I was excited for this one. Arkansas got some dogs. Their quarterback is 6'6", 230, and the way he can move is scary. Oklahoma State, though, I mean, they pulled through. Defense played a big game. Alan Bowman, Ollie Gordon did their thing on offense. They win in double overtime. Oklahoma State, a big home win. However, Arkansas, they start out 1-1. Arkansas, when they get to SEC play, I predict they're going to make a major upset this year. I don't really know their schedule off the top of my head, but I know they're going to have to play ranked opponents because it's the SEC. I predict whether they go to a place and beat them or if they have someone at their house and beat them, I predict that's going to happen. But Arkansas is a very solid team. Georgia Tech at Syracuse. I have this one because Georgia Tech was ranked 23 in the country. They beat Florida State in week 0. Then they go to Syracuse, which I'm like, okay, this is kind of a little bit of a test now that you have to go a true road game to Syracuse. Not a great ACC team. Let's see if you can take the win. And they lose by 3, 31-28. Kyle McCord, former Ohio State quarterback, has a phenomenal game. He had 4 touchdowns, well over 300 passing yards. I don't think he had any interceptions. Georgia Tech still had played a good game. It was a 3-point loss, but unfortunately, if you're Georgia Tech and you didn't really have high expectations heading into the season, I think it just shows how hard it can be, to continue winning. So that was a close one. Tennessee Tech at Georgia. I mean, you got to cover Georgia, right? Number one team in the country. I think it's kind of funny how like they gave up a field goal to Tennessee Tech, who is I don't even think they're like a ranked FCS team. Like they are a bad FCS team. And Georgia, I mean, Georgia's one of those teams like they're not going to go and like beat you like 70-0, like some of these other schools. Like they're going to win, and Tennessee Tech isn't going to move the ball well against them. But I mean, it was still an outstanding performance. Carson Beck, 5 touchdowns, 240 yards. They spread the ball. It seems like Georgia doesn't really have like a go-to guy necessarily, at least to pass. Like I feel like they just kind of have a number of receivers they use, and they know how to win. Georgia looks great as per usual. Now let's rip the Band-Aid off. NIU and Notre Dame. I remember I was watching the Michigan and Texas game yesterday on Saturday, and I was talking to one of my buddies, and I was like, that would be the upset of the century if Notre Dame loses at home to Northern Illinois. And what did happen? They freaking lost 16-14. I mean, unbelievable. I didn't get to watch a ton of it because I just was like, look, I was monitoring the score, and then I was like, oh, like Notre Dame, like they'll, like any great team, they might be down by a little bit, or it might be a close game, but they'll prevail in the fourth quarter, or they'll prevail at one point. And they never did. And I watched the ending of the game, and NIU played a really close game. That's a really bad loss for Notre Dame. Especially, I think what's so crazy is like college football can change. Like Notre Dame just a week ago went on the road to Texas A&M, a top 20 team in the country, and beat them by 10. And then you lose to one of the weakest FBS programs at home. That is really difficult. Honestly, like I have been really disappointed in Riley Leonard in these first 2 weeks. I don't like to like just assume he's going to have a bad season, but I had him as a top 10 quarterback and not number 10 or not number 9. Like I think I had him at 7. And I remember last week I kind of apologized. I'm like, I think Cam Ward should maybe overtake his spot. And I definitely agree. I mean, Riley Leonard has been super disappointing. I mean, he had a bad game yesterday. He had, I think, a 1 rushing touchdown, but he had like 11 rushing attempts, 16 yards, which I get there's the whole, like, if you take a sack, that's minus yards for the quarterback, whatever. 2 interceptions, no touchdowns through the air. Notre Dame's running the ball fine. Like, they ran it pretty efficiently with their main top 2 running backs. But Riley Leonard, I mean, he can't catch anything. I think he's been really disappointed. They're not going to bench him, but I think there needs to be something done because they're not getting it done through the air, and their defense can only do so much. I mean, NIU, they only scored 16. Like I don't really think it was a defensive issue. Like I remember NIU kind of had one play that kind of blew up on Notre Dame defensively, and they scored for a touchdown, and I'm like, okay, that happens. And then, besides that, they held NIU to 16. That's not too bad. I'm just, I think, concerned for Notre Dame about their offense and Riley Leonard, and there's something not clicking there with the passing game. I don't know if it's the coaching, if it's the offensive coordinator, what it could be. But anyway, huge upset for NIU. Biggest win in school history. They have never beaten a top 10 team ever. So that is huge, especially go on the road to Notre Dame, who's number 5 in the country, and bring them down. Tennessee at NC State. Tennessee looks really good. On the road, they kick their ass. 51-10. I mean, are you kidding me? You go on the road and win by, 6 touchdowns damn near? I mean, holy shit. That's a huge win for the Vols. To go on the road, I mean, I think that just kind of shows how good the SEC is. But also kind of shows how bad the ACC's been this year. Great win for Tennessee. We're going to get into Colorado and Nebraska. I was at the bar with my girlfriend yesterday. I worked a 6-day work week this week with just my job at Minnesota Hockey TV and Live Barn with broadcasting, and then my day job with them as well. So Saturday was my only day off, and I was like, I got to spend it with my girlfriend. We went to the bar, had a few drinks, got a burger, having a good time watching some Nebraska-Colorado football. I'm not shocked that Colorado loses. I mean, Nebraska in the first half whooped their ass. They went up 28-0. I mean, like, there was nothing Colorado could do for Nebraska's defense. They played it so well. They played it so well. And I had Nebraska winning. Like if I had, like I think me and my buddies were doing like a college pick'em, and we're betting. It's a free like pick'em. We're not putting money into it. But I was like, okay, I think Nebraska should win. The final score is 20-10. I mean, okay, Nebraska or Colorado had a field goal and a touchdown kind of late. Okay, whatever. I think it's funny how like see how much like people like love them and like how much media hype they get, because literally like last week Colorado beats North Dakota State, an FCS program, by 5 points at home. And people are saying, oh, Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in college football. He's going to be the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys next year. I don't know who said that. I was like, Stephen A. Smith, some, big sports guy. And I'm just like, okay, maybe you're right about Travis Hunter. Like, he is great. He'll be a first rounder for sure. But I'm like, you're giving Shedeur Sanders and this team way too much hype. They beat an FCS program by 5 points. Like, come on. And then it's like, where's that now? They go and they look like absolute shit against Nebraska. They couldn't stop Nebraska in the first half. Nebraska stopped scoring in the second half because, well, they don't need the score, right? You're up 28-0. And as long as they can't score against you, why try super hard on offense? And yeah, they were no match. They couldn't run the ball. I mean, Travis Hunter still had an impressive game. I think he had 10 catches for 110 yards. Didn't see the end zone. I don't think he's the issue. He is a great player. Like, he is their best player by far. But yeah, I mean, the offensive line looked horrible. And I can't give all the blame to Shedeur Sanders. I'm not going to be that guy. He was given very bad opportunities. Like, there were so many plays where, like, the play just blew up at the snap of a finger. And, like, what is Shedeur Sanders going to do? And also, by the way, like, he didn't look like he was the most mobile, or like, I'm trying to think of a better word. Like, his scrambling, his agility, his mobility didn't look great. Like, it seemed like pretty much any time they were able, like, it seemed like the Nebraska defensive line pursued him very well, and they were able to bring him down very easy. Anyway, huge win for Nebraska. Good for the Cornhuskers. And then the last one, Boise State at Oregon. I talked about this for my last game earlier in my podcast last week, and I was like, Oregon, what the hell? I'm asking the same thing now. You're at home. Boise State, although they're a solid FBS program and have maybe the best running back in college football right now in Ashton Jeanty, I mean, what the hell? You win by 3? Like, Oregon, I don't think it's their offense. They have scored 61 points in 2 games. Okay, you're averaging 30 points a game. They're running the ball well. Evan Stewart kind of has his big game, but then Tez Johnson sucks, which I think is funny because they flip-flopped from week 1. Week 1, Tez Johnson had a big game. Evan Stewart didn't do shit. And then now it's like the opposite, so I think that's kind of funny. Dylan Gabriel has a good performance, efficient, doesn't turn the ball over. But it's the Oregon defense. I mean, they allow 34 points to Boise State, and if you see some of those runs by Ashton Jeanty, I mean, he made their defense look like crap. I'm in a swearing mood right now. I don't know why. But they looked like shit. They couldn't tackle him. He made them look like high schoolers. It's funny to me. And it's like, Oregon, you have 2 home games against Boise State, a non-Power 4 program, and Idaho, an FCS program. And your margin of victory in those 2 games is 13 points. The issue is not the offense. It's the defense. Something's got to happen. Dan Lanning's got to talk to those boys and, set them straight because something's not going on. If their defense is like this, they're not going to win the Big Ten. They're not going to even maybe win a college football playoff game, right? If their defense can't stop, there's only so many points the offense can do, and you can't expect the offense to be great every single night. So the defense, something's got to give. Crazy. Okay, we're going to go to my questions. Then I'm going to kind of like ask myself, or maybe questions you might be thinking, and then my takeaways. Jeremiah Smith is still the best freshman in college football. 5 catches, 119 yards, and a touchdown. A huge win over Western Michigan. Carson Beck, Ashton Jeanty, and Cam Ward. That is the top 3 for the Heisman race right now. You got to give it to Cam Ward because he has looked great. He had a huge win against Florida. Then they go and play what? FIU? Is it FIU? FIA? Florida Atlantic, right? One of those F schools. Cam Ward looked great again for Miami. They get a big win. Ashton Jeanty, I mean, he's got 9 touchdowns in 2 games and like 500 rushing yards. I mean, I wish I had him in fantasy football. He's probably got over 100 fantasy football points right now. Yeah, he's been amazing. You have to put him in the Heisman race. And then Carson Beck. I mean, Carson Beck, starting quarterback on the best team in college football. He's looked great. I mean, offensively, he's had no struggles. Has not turned the ball over. I think he has 7 or 8 passing touchdowns already. He's looked composed. He's looking to be a Heisman winner in a national championship. Those are my 3 Heisman. What the F, Oregon? Yeah, I don't know what's going on with them. Just to kind of, summarize what I said earlier, defense has been a struggle. Offense, I'm not really too concerned about right now. They're just too good. But defensively, something's up. I don't know what it is. Oregon, I don't know I should have checked who they play this week. But now, they might have a road game. Now I want to check. Bear with me, guys. Oregon, the Oregon Ducks. Okay, they go to UCLA. Yeah, this is the Big Ten play starts. They're 3 weeks away from hosting Ohio State. I mean, something's got to give. Because if their defense isn't good, Ohio State will run their shit on them. You got... No, I misread. They go to Oregon State. Never mind. I misread that. They go to Oregon State on Saturday. I mean, Oregon State's 2-0. They've got to really clutch up their defense. Oregon has been really disappointing, for sure. Notre Dame, really? Notre Dame, you really lose? Notre Dame, I mean, I still think they're a top-end team. They deserve to be ranked, but that is a really, really bad loss. And that will definitely, I think everyone knows that, they can't be a top 4 seed in the college football playoffs since they're an independent. They would, the top 4 seeds are going to be an ACC, Big 12, Big 10, SEC championship winner. Notre Dame can't do that. As high as they can be as a 5 seed, but I don't think they're going to get that now. A home loss to NIU, I mean, if they really can't afford another loss at this point, to me at least. That's a really tough loss. I'm not shocked at the Colorado loss, honestly. Again, this kind of summarize it. Tough atmosphere at Nebraska. Nebraska is a good overall team. I didn't think they maybe would lose this bad, but yeah, they definitely need to, their defense is definitely a question. They can't stop much. And their offensive line, although they look good against FCS North Dakota State, they did not look good against Nebraska. And they really have to tighten up the blocking. They've got to run the ball better. They got to give Shedeur Sanders more time. Otherwise, it's going to be another long year for the Buffaloes. Nico Iamaleava? Oh my gosh, I'm so bad at pronouncing names. You see, this is how dumb I feel like I can be sometimes. So I saw a clip of him when he was playing at Long Beach Poly, and I was like, oh yeah, he's that big senior guy who's committed to Tennessee. And then I'm like, yeah, he's one of their best quarterback recruits they've ever had. And then I'm like, okay, why isn't Long Beach Poly great in high school football right now? They've got one of the best quarterbacks. And then I'm like, that doesn't really make sense. And then I go and see this guy's going off for Tennessee this year, and I'm like, who the hell is it? And it's this guy. So the video I saw must have been a year old. Someone must have reposted it as if it was a new video. But regardless, I mean, he's the real deal. He's got 5 touchdowns, 2 picks, over 500 passing yards as a true freshman at Tennessee. Leads the Vols to a 51-10 victory at NC State, a top 25 team in the country. Tennessee, the dark horse of the SEC. I thought it was going to be Missouri or Ole Miss. Is it Tennessee now? With the SEC, it looks really good. It's too good. Yeah, he's the real deal. Remember the name. Darian Mensah, starting true freshman quarterback for Tulane. They hosted Kansas State in their home game this week. And Darian Mensah, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception in a close battle among a top 20 team. Yeah, remember the name. He is going to be the real deal in college football for the next few years. We'll see if he stays at Tulane or if he decides to transfer to a bigger program. I don't know, but he is a true freshman. He looks really good, and he was pretty close to beating Kansas State this week. And then a low blow for Ohio State. This is kind of my intro to the AP poll rankings. If you guys have just checked them out, or if you already know, Ohio State goes down to 3. And my overall reaction to that, I'm like, is that a low blow? Because Ohio State, although like they haven't had a tough schedule yet, they have played Western Michigan and Akron. They have whooped ass. They have played really well on both sides of the ball. And for them to go down in the rankings, like I understand that Texas has a huge home win against Colorado State. They go on the road to Michigan, and they beat them by 19. Like, I get that, but I'm like, does that really justify being ranked over Ohio State? I don't know. Like, Ohio State's super good. Like, do they really deserve to be ranked lower than 2? I don't know. To me, it's a little bit of a low blow. That, again, it's like you ask Ohio State to do exactly what, they're supposed to do, and they do it. And they lose out on the rankings. Anyway, so number 1 is Georgia. Makes sense. 2 goes to Texas. I understand why Texas is number 2. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it. I will say this AP poll I have the most disagreements with. Compared to the preseason one, compared to last week's, Ohio State goes to 3. Alabama stays at 4. See, I don't know about this. Because Ole Miss bumps up to 5, and now they're in the top 5. We have 4 SEC programs in the top 5, and then we have a few others. Literally 6 of the top 7 teams in the country are in the SEC. Georgia, Texas, Alabama. Wow, incredible. Ole Miss is at 5. Ole Miss has another huge win this week. And Alabama, they played a good team in South Florida, but I understand the score doesn't indicate how close that game was. Like, if that makes sense. It was a really close game. It was a 1-point game at one point, like in like the second half, I'm pretty sure. And then Alabama does pull away in the fourth quarter, and they get a few touchdowns, and they do their thing, and they win. But Ole Miss has been really good. Like, they are allowing jack shit on defense. Like, no one's moving the ball against them. And they look really good offensively. Could I see Ole Miss being ranked 4 and Alabama 5? Maybe. 6 is Missouri. And I was kind of looking at it, and I'm like, that looks a little high for Missouri. But then I was kind of thinking about it. I'm like, well, anyone behind him, do they deserve to be ranked over Missouri? And I'm like, no. Missouri comes in at 6. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty impressed by that. You beat Buffalo, you beat Murray State. Yeah, they have shut out 2 teams this year. They look great. They are a true top 10 team. I'm really excited when they get to SEC play. Tennessee moves up to 7. They move up 7 spots from 14 to 7. And I get it. That's a little high for me again. But when I look at the teams behind them, I'm like, well, they do have a huge win against Chattanooga. They go to NC State, beat them by 41 on the road. Tennessee, they're the real deal. That's crazy. Yes, 6 of the 7 top teams in the country are all in the SEC. That is front-loaded. Penn State stays at 8, which I'm not really sure why. Because then it's like you have Miami, who is 2-0 and has 2 good wins. And I'm like, I just don't really think Penn State deserves to be 8. But then Oregon has played, in some ways, a better schedule than Penn State, maybe? Is that a little bit of a hot take? And they're at 9? I don't know. Is Penn State a top 10 team? Yeah. But I just wasn't impressed with that Bowling Green win. They should have won by a lot more. They were minus 34.5 point favorites. Like, they were projected to win by 5 touchdowns. And you win by 1. That's tough. Oregon goes to 9. I get it. Are they realistically a top 10 team? Like, yes. They even could be a top 5 team. Like, I could see that. But, yeah, the way they're playing, no chance. Miami cracks the top 10, the best ACC team. As they should. They have 2 great wins. Cam Ward's playing lights out. Yeah, great team. USC moves to 11. USC had a shutout win against Utah State last night, And yeah, Miller Moss is the real deal. USC, I mean, a big defensive performance, plus that road win at LSU. Yeah, USC, kind of the dark horse in the Big Ten. Like, I would have never thought it would have, like, I would have assumed it would have been like Penn State, or Michigan. I didn't think it was going to be USC. 12 goes to Utah. They moved down one. They lost, they won against Baylor. However, Cam Rising goes down. And see, I feel like my quarterback thing, like with my list, was like I had Cam Ward outside of the top 10, and then I was like, that's kind of bad. He's playing really well. And then like I had Riley Leonard inside the top 10, and I'm like, he's playing kind of bad right now. I haven't really seen Cam Rising be a top 10 quarterback this year, and he has been so far until he got injured. I don't know how bad the hand injury is for him, but he got injured. I mean, yeah, Utah, I still think is a great team, but without him, their offense will not move as well. So 12 is fine for now. Oklahoma State with their home win against Arkansas to move up to 13. 14 is Kansas State. I'm fine with that. Oklahoma stays at 15. Oklahoma had a scary win against Houston last night. They won by 4 points. That's a tough win. Oklahoma, questionable this year. LSU moves up to 16. See, I don't actually hate LSU. Like, I actually have respect for their program. I wish Coach O was coaching there still. But you go and play an FCS program in Nichols, and it was a close game for a while. And you ended up winning, but it was a close game. And I'm like, you're at home against an FCS team. And they still move up too? They shouldn't have been this high in the preseason. And you have a home loss and a scary home win against an FCS team, and you're still ranked 16 in the country. Mind-blowing. 17, Michigan. I get it. That's still a little high for me, but I get it. You beat Fresno State, who's a good FCS program at home, and then, you don't do shit on offense against Texas. I guess that's good enough for 17. I feel like there's a huge talent disparity already in the AP poll. I feel like I would say after Miami, outside of the top 10, I feel like it really dips down low. And then, you have USC, Utah, Oklahoma State, Kansas State. They're all good teams. But then, yeah, it kind of dips down. Michigan at 17. Notre Dame drops to 18. So they're still in the top 25. I get it at the same time. Should they be inside the top 20? 18 seems a little high. For Louisville and Arizona to be ranked over them, 32, 33, again, pretty much. Wow. For them to be ranked below Notre Dame, I think is ridiculous. Louisville comes in at 19, Arizona at 20. I mean, yeah, Arizona's offense is great. Defensively, they're still in question. Iowa State, the highest new not ranked team from a week ago. They have a big road win against Iowa. Yeah, good win for the Cyclones. Clemson moves up to 22. They have kind of a nice rebound game. They have a big home win against Appalachian State. Clemson, big win for them. They deserve to be ranked. I think they should maybe be a little bit higher than 22. And then the three newlyweds, or the newbies, I should say, not newlyweds. It'd be like wedding, as if they just got married. These teams are not marrying each other. Nebraska, they're 2-0. That's fine. Boston College, I was thinking about it. If Boston College wins, they beat Duquesne. Thomas Castellanos, another huge win for Boston College. And then NIU gets ranked at 25. And see, I don't like to be disrespectful. That's just really high. For them to go as one of the worst FBS programs, and it's I get you have maybe the most impressive win in college football, a win at number 5 Notre Dame. I just don't know if that's still good enough to be top 25. They definitely should receive votes to be ranked. 25 seems a little bit high. For me, I would rather have teams like Illinois, who's 2-0, and just beat Kansas, Memphis, Washington, Texas A&M. You can even put in Boise State because realistically, if you really want to get nit and gritty, if another team that's ranked inside the top 25 or those teams still receiving votes played NIU, I bet you, 99 times out of 100, they'd still beat NIU. Great win. I don't want to take, I want to give credit where credit's due. That's kind of how I like to do things. Great win at Notre Dame. Would it ever happen again in 100 years if they play, 100 more, 99 more times? Probably not. That is my initial reaction to the AP poll. Yeah, I'm not super stoked about it. I think there needs to be some work done. Overall, the top 7, top 8 teams are just tremendous. I think there's a huge talent disparity outside of the top 10. When I look at the SEC, I find it hard to believe. The only team that's really going to compete with the SEC this year is Ohio State. Will Howard looks great. Jeremiah Smith might be their best receiver as a freshman. Travion Henderson and Quinshaw Judkins both had big games for the Buckeyes this weekend. I'm really excited for week 3 coming up. We're going to talk about the preview later this week. We also get to look forward to, again, hopefully a player interview coming up in the next couple of episodes. And then in a couple of weeks, I'm really excited. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. I'm really excited. I'm collaborating with this one college football content creator, Smash Hit Sports. His name is Cody. He is so knowledgeable about the sport, and he's pretty big on TikTok and Instagram, like 20-something thousand subscribers. He does pretty well on there, and I'm super excited. We're going to collaborate for a couple times this season, actually. So looking forward to that. That'll come up in a few weeks, more mid-September-ish. Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching. This has been the Inside the Scoop. The Inside the Scoop. Oh, my goodness. I can't even get my own name right. The Inside Scoop Podcast. I'm Julian Lockhart. Again, thanks for watching. Hope you had a great weekend, and we'll talk to you later.